Hi everyone, in one of my recent videos I showed you how to make a card similar to this using the simple philosophy of a background stamp, a sentiment and some punches, and then just decorating and layering that up. So this was using Kazaz products, and I know that there's plenty of people out there who have limited supply of products, so I just wanted to show you how this idea can be adapted using different products, and hopefully you can take this concept and then use products that you have at home to create some beautiful cards. So I'm going to make quite a few changes today, and once I show the two cards at the end of the video you'll see how different they actually look, but the concept is the same. So using a stamp for the background, using some punches, a sentiment, and layering up the cardstock. So the card that I'm going to make today actually has a bit of a Christmas theme to it. So I've got some light blue cardstock here that I've just folded in half, so that's a standard size card. And then what I've got for my mat today is a grey cardstock, and all I've done is measured the card base and then taken 1/2 centimetre off one side and the other, and cut that grey cardstock to fit those measurements. So we've got a 1/4 centimetre border all the way around, and then I've got another layer that I'm going to put on top of that grey mat, and I've done exactly the same thing. So take 1/2 centimetre off each of those sides, and then yeah, that gives me a 1/4 centimetre border all the way around. So this is the piece of cardstock that we're going to work on. And what I've also got is, before I sort of spent too much money on craft, one of the ways that I actually did save myself a fair bit of money was to purchase card magazines that actually included stamp sets in them. So this is one that I purchased quite a while ago, which was a Christmas stamp set from Clear Impressions, and it's got a good variety of sentiments and stamps and things like that on there. So I'm going to use the Christmas tree stamp today and the sentiment that says peace on earth. So I've already put those onto my stamping blocks, and so we're going to start with the Christmas tree, and I've got some Memento black ink that we're going to stamp up our Christmas stamp. So I'm going to ink that up fairly well, and the technique that we're using is actually going to just sort of layer these Christmas trees across the bottom. Now the beauty of this idea is that if you have a tree stamp that sort of looks like a fir tree or anything like that, you can use it instead of a specific Christmas tree stamp if you don't have it. So that's my other tip for saving money with this kind of thing, is that you can actually use non-Christmas stamps, and if you've got a Christmas sentiment on it, that tends to make it look Christmassy enough. The other tip with this technique is to vary the height of the trees, so make sure that you're not stamping them all level across the card, and then some lower ones, some higher ones, that kind of thing. So making a bit of variation so that it looks like there's a forest of trees going on in the background there. Okay, so I think that's enough trees. I'm just going to put that stamp to the side. Now also what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take away that piece of paper that I had there, and what I'm going to do is use the Tim Holtz Distress inks to actually distress the edge, and what I'm looking for is a night sky effect. So I've actually got 4 colours here today. You could get away with using one light and one dark colour if you don't have many inks, and you can do this technique with other inks and just using a sponge, but I find the distress inks blend the best. So I'm just going to flip it around because I find it easier to work on the side, and I'm starting with Broken China, so that's my lightest colour that I tend to start with. And what I'm going to do is just off the craft sheet and onto the cardstock, slowly bring that colour down. So I'm looking for a night sky effect here, and just bringing that onto the cardstock. Now if you didn't have blue cardstock, you could definitely take the colour down a bit further, but I thought it would save me doing some inking because I've got some blue cardstock that I don't use very often, so it was a good way to use that up. So I'm going down to about the tree line with the lightest colour, and then I'll put that to the side. Now the good thing about these inking tools as well is that the sponges come off, as you would have seen me just pull one off. And I don't have many of the tools, but I have plenty of the sponges. So that's a cheap way to have a sponge for each of the inks that you have. But I only have 3 tools, so I'll just swap them out as needs be. So the next colour I'm going in with is Peacock Feathers, which is sort of a brighter colour. So we're just going to bring that part of the way down. Obviously don't want this too bright. You can see when you ink, you actually drop some of that onto the mat. Don't know if you will pick that up on the video, but you can actually go back in and pick that ink up on the tool and then get it back onto the cardstock. So you can see we're getting a darker sky effect there, and it does look quite bright at the moment, but I have decided to include black soot at the end just to darken up those edges. So that's the Peacock Feathers. Then we've got a colour called Stormy Sky. So you'll see this will start to change the effect of that colour now and tone down that brightness a little bit. So as I said, we could have just used the lighter colour Broken China and then gone in with the Stormy Sky, but I just find, you know, if you've got the colours, you may as well use them and get that really nice kind of blended and mottled effect with that. Okay, so you can see that's starting to look really good. Now the black is quite a strong colour, so we don't want to go overboard with this. We really just want to go around the edges and not too heavy like we did with the others. And you can see that black is starting to show up straight away there. We don't want to go in too heavy at all. So just around the edges and just soften that out as you go. Okay. The other thing I would advise is if you have like some kind of cloth handy after you've done this, or move your craft sheet to the side, because it does tend to hold on to some of that ink and it can get on the card that you're working on. If it doesn't come off easy, some of it did, you can have a bottle of, a spray bottle of water handy. This is just a cheap one that I picked up, and just spray it on your mat and wipe it clean. And that's what I really love about these craft sheets, is they're really easy to keep clean and take care of. So this is our now background stamp. So instead of the chevron background that we had before, I've used the trees, and then I've just brought some colour in there as well. So what we're going to do is stamp our sentiment now. So we'll go back to that Memento ink that we had, and we're just going to stamp up, ink up our sentiment stamp. So it's Peace on Earth. And stamp that in the top corner. Just want to get as much ink off as possible because the edge is quite dark. Okay, so that's what we're going to start with. What I'm going to do before I start adhering our punches, and today I'm using snowflakes with the Christmas theme, is I want to actually layer this card onto the mat and the card base, simply because once we adhere those snowflakes with the wet glue, I can leave it to dry and the card's then ready to go. So I've cheated and already put double-sided tape on the back of both the cardstock and the mat, so you didn't have to see me measure that out and stick it on. So just by eye, lining this up, because it's such a small border, you know, it's not like you're going to have a huge error or huge margin for error. So yeah, I tend to just do this by eye. If I've got a bit more of a bigger border, I usually get rid of the craft sheet and use my cutting mat, so that helps me line up and make sure I get everything straight. I have to admit, I'm not the best when it comes to keeping things straight. So then we're mounting that onto our light blue cardstock like so, and it actually looks like a completely different colour, the top piece to the cardstock now. So I've punched out some snowflakes. Now I'm just using silver cardstock that was a scrap that I had lying around. Again, the idea with this is that you can use any punches that you have lying around. Okay, that one went flying and I lost it, so let's try again. Or you might have, you know, I've got a few snowflake dies and things like that, so it doesn't have to be a punch. But anything that you sort of can use or have lying around, you might have some stars or, you know, those kind of things can be used as well. So before I adhere these snowflakes, I'm just going to think about my placement. So I think I might put one over one down here. We do have this sentiment here, and I tend to like to nuzzle a little embellishment around the sentiment. I'm not sure that this one is going to lend well to that. Maybe one up here in the gap. Or maybe could we put one around like that. Not sure I like it there. I think I'm going to go back to that sort of layout. So once you've got them where you want them, then you can actually start to adhere them. So just pick it up, and I've got some glossy accents I'm going to use to just stick down those snowflakes. And I tend to leave the others there until I'm ready, so I can make sure I'm keeping them in the right place and balancing them out well. Now from this point, once you've sort of got your snowflakes down, you could definitely leave it at that if you wanted to. You could go in with something like glitter glue or something to that effect, and actually go and put something in the centre of the snowflake. I think I'm going to pop something into the centre of each snowflake, but I think rather than using something like glitter glue today, I've actually got some of these rhinestones that I bought in lots of strips, and you know, it's taken me a long time to get through this, so I've got plenty of them. So I'm going to take 4 of these, and I'm actually going to just trim them to individual. They're quite close together, so they're not that easy to trim. Just trim off the extra sticky on the side. I didn't cut that very well in the middle. And then I'm going to stick those to the middle of each of the snowflakes. And if you had a bigger snowflake and quite small strips, you might like to run some strips along the snowflakes, but I think these ones are going to be just big enough to put one in the centre. So again, the idea with this is to use the stamps and the punches that you have. You know, if you were looking at doing a Christmas card, any Christmas sentiment will do, any kind of trees will do, even if they're not a Christmas tree. And the punches could be anything that's remotely Christmas themed, like, as I said before, stars or snowflakes, or you know, even baubles, if you wanted to kind of then draw a line from them hanging, you know, that would work as well. So I've got this card here, and I'm going to just bring back the other card that I was showing you before. So very different cards, but similar techniques, using background stamps, punches and a sentiment, and layering that all up onto coordinating colours. Okay, hope you enjoyed that video, and thanks for watching.